What's going on, Falcon fam? This is your boy Ricardo coming back at you with another video. Today we're gonna talk about the Atlanta Falcons quarterback competitions. Guess what? It's been talked about all over national media. I promise you guys I was gonna come in here and give my thoughts on this quarterback competition. What does it mean for the Atlanta Falcons? Particularly for 2026. How will this shape this Falcons season this year? Also for the future, of this position for the Atlanta Falcons. Um, we talked about it at nauseum, guys. When you talk about franchise quarterbacks in the league, um, that's what every team is looking for. Some teams get lucky and they get it right and able to have that consistency as a franchise quarterback for years, and you don't have to think about that. Atlanta Falcons had that for about 14 seasons, under Matt Ryan, who's now the president of football, right? And they did not have to worry about that position, right? You look at teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had one in Ben Roethlisberger, but they did not plan for the future, and it's kind of the situation that Atlanta Falcons is finding itself in right now. But you look at organizations like the Green Bay Packers, who actually have done it the right way. They has had you know quarterbacks for as long as we can remember. They started with Brett Favre, drafted Aaron Rodgers, had Aaron Rodgers for all those years, drafted Jordan Love. Now, in a couple years from now, you probably draft Jordan Love's successor. It's just the way they've been doing it for years and years and years, and they have not had issues where they had quarterback situations. You look at organizations like the Cleveland Browns, you look at organizations like the New York Jets. They hadn't had it in so many years where had solid, teams built, but the quarterback play was just not where it needed to be. And when you think about that, um, that's when you talk about professional football, NFL football, the quarterback position. People might want to think you don't need a steady, a consistent hand there, but you do. And that's what this season is all about for Atlanta Falcons, trying to identify and find out what they can get, um, from this quarterback competition. Do they need to pivot and move forward in 2027? But this is an important season for the Atlanta Falcons organizations, especially to this new regime who has, had a complete facelift from the front office. Three new three new members in there. Actually, a new position actually created for this Atlanta Falcons organization and the president of football. So it's a lot of things that when you're thinking about, this quarterback competition, how important it is for Atlanta Falcons this year. Right? It's not end all be all. You still have to build a team around the quarterback situation. But when you're thinking about what's going on, SJ World 1989, you gotta have to build something around this team, and that's what you're trying to do, guys. With that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button. I know you guys out here that I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, before we get into the quarterback conversation, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Definitely added another player, brings us total to 14 guys that have added free agency. That wasn't with the team last year. If you go to some other players, they actually brought back, right? But they're the new faces that's here from that was not here from a season ago. They're up to 14, and they're added Darnay Holmes, um, cornerback. Previously stint was with the Las Vegas Raiders. He has four interceptions, about 20 something PPUs. This, is considered a depth signing for me, camp body, somebody that can come in and potentially, make a name for himself. But to be honest with you, I have never heard of this young guy until last night when I saw the Atlanta Falcons was going to sign him to a roster spot. So, you know, don't have a lot to say. He is fast. They utilize him in a lot of ways. At his other destination that he was at, they utilize him blitzing the quarterback a lot. Um, he is physical as a cornerback. So we did lose the offer. We got Billy Bowman Jr. Coming off a torn Achilles, so we don't know when he's coming back. So it's really important for for the Atlanta Falcons to make sure that um, they create depth, right? That's one of the positions they had not brought in. This I talked about this when I went over the current roster that Atlanta Falcons had in place, and they did not bring in a defensive back, right? So they have now. They added another defensive back, adding to depth, right? I do you do expect Atlanta Falcons to address this defensive backfield some more. If they don't do it anymore in free agency, they definitely will do it in the draft. So be on the lookout for another defensive back. The Atlanta Falcons were at the Georgia Pro Day today. They was there. It was reported they was feeling like 30 staff members. So that is a change from the previous regimes, right? Um, for some reason, they did not like to bring guys in from the University of Georgia. Two guys in particular is the defensive lineman Miller, and of course Zachariah Branch, the receiver, the speedy receiver out of Georgia. Those two guys I'm thinking about. You got the tight end as well in depth. Um, you got the cornerback in Everett. It's a lot of players that the Atlanta Falcons could look at and probably get in day 2 and day 3 since we do not have a draft pick. So Miller, this guy is huge, 321 pounds, a guy from from the area in Atlanta, would love to come back and play for his hometown. So we'll see. And he might not even be on the board for the Atlanta Falcons though when they get to pick at 48. So um, but this guy, another guy from Georgia, man, that's hungry, want to come in and make some plays. We're going to get into the draft, here soon, guys. But had to come in and talk about the quarterback position today, and that's where we're going to go. So let's get on into our topic for today. So you talk about the quarterback competition, right? So you think about quarterback competitions. Um, it's sometimes it looks like it's a true competition. So that's what they ask you: is it a true competition? Is it open, or is it just saying that it's a quarterback competition, but everybody have inclination, they already know who's going to have the upper hand or not, like that, right? I do believe when you think about this situation for the Atlanta Falcons, um, it could be a true competition. And the reason I say that, because you know, the Atlanta Falcons did not draft Michael Penix Jr. Right, the new regime, right? They did not draft him. Right, he's coming out for injury, so we don't really know what the brass really think about Michael Penix potential to be the franchise quarterback for the future. We just don't know that. So when you're thinking about the specific quarterback position um, in the competition, it's understandable that the Atlanta Falcons would bring in competition for Michael Penix to if not anything to make sure that he does not think get comfortable and thinks that he has it, but the old saying iron sharpen iron, right? Think about coming in competition brings the best out in most competitors. That's what really happens. So I think it's going to be good for Michael Penix Jr. I also think it's going to be good for Tua Tagovailoa as well. Both of these guys coming in, probably feeling like they definitely got something to prove. Of course, more Michael Penix than Tua Tagovailoa, but I mean, you just don't know when you're talking about this quarterback competition where it's going to the layout, right? Most people probably assuming that Tua has the upper hand, which makes sense, right? We're going to get into the reasons why you think it makes sense, but when they say quarterback competition, hopefully we just let it play out like it's going to play out. Um, Eddie says Tua is going to have a good year and get a 3-year deal. Um, we'll talk about that at the end about who wins out the position, right? All right. So let's get into one of my first topics I want to talk about. We talk about quarterback competitions because I really believe that this is one of the most important aspects when you think about quarterback competitions, right? And it's a lot of nuances to this as well, and that's reps, right? So first of all, when you think about quarterback competitions, you always go to the reps, right? How many reps do these guys get a piece, right? And who do they get their reps with, right? You think about when you think about quarterback competitions, right? So if it's a true quarterback competition, both guys get reps with the ones, right? They get reps with the starting offensive line, the starting skill players. Because the reason why they want to do that, because they want to build chemistry and they want to make it seems like, when they get in the huddle and call out plays, they're talking to guys they're going to talk to on Sunday, right? That's what it really boils down to when you're thinking about reps, right? You can go back recently with Kevin Stefanski, right? And we saw this unfold last year with his quarterback situation, right? It was really telltale who he really believed was going to you know, be the starting quarterback. Because when you talk about reps, if you're not getting reps with the ones, you're not, you know, up there going to get our opportunity to start, right? It's the coach's job, right, to get the guy that he feels going to start ready. That's why they give him the reps with the ones, right? But that's not a true quarterback competition if you give just one guy and one guy, majority of the reps with the ones or all the reps with the ones, right? That's not a quarterback competition. So it's going to be telltale sign when we get into the really competition with these guys. The reps going to play a big role in this, right? Another thing when we're talking about reps, right, is the fact that it really boils down to the organization, right? And I mean by organization, um, I do believe that the general manager and the owner, in this case, the president of football, will have a say in this particular thing with reps, right? Because if you say it's a true cornerback competition, and I get it, I understand that coaches coach, you want the coaches out there, but don't say it if you don't mean it, right? If you say it's a quarterback competition, and then you don't give the one of the players opportunity to compete fairly, right? What I mean is you split it down the middle. If you're running 9 plays or 10 plays, 5 and 5, right? They both get reps with the ones, right? The twos go to the backups, right? That's what you're looking at. That's real competition because you want your guy to have chemistry with the Drake Londons, with the Kyle Pitts, with the Bijan Robinson, right? With the Austin Hoopers, right? With the Jahan Dotsons, right? With the Alameda kids. That's what you want your guy to have actually reps with. So if that's not going to be the case, right? It's not a quarterback competition, right? Like I said, you go back to what Kevin Stefanski did last year. Certain guys did not get reps with the ones until they knew there was going to be a starter, which means that it was not a true quarterback competition. So communication is key, right? When you think about being able to communicate, having your messaging right, that's always key. So I definitely want to talk about reps, and that's going to be the real truth. Now, unfortunately, Michael Penix Jr. is still coming back for injury, so right at the start, the reps going to be swayed towards Tua, right? Obviously, because Michael Penix Jr. is not healthy. But what I mean by reps, I'm talking about once Michael Penix Jr. is cleared and he's ready to hit the field, do the reps get distributed equally? And if it does, then you can say yes, it's a true quarterback competition, and something we can actually believe in, and maybe the best man wins, right? That's when you start to look at it, right? Um, got Chance Bill saying, besides Vic, who was your favorite Falcons quarterback? Matty Ice, easily, easily. And like I said, I think Matt Ryan is the greatest Atlanta Falcon ever, right? Because of what he did to this franchise. He's not the best player ever. I'm not saying that he was the best talented player ever. That's not what I'm saying. But the greatest Atlanta Falcon ever, I think Matty Ice. So that's my answer to that question, right? But guys, reps is going to be important, right? So when we start talking about this quarterback competition, we're going to go to the reps, right? It's telltale what the coaching, I think, what organization think, right? Because if the GM, the president, and the owner are saying, if it's competition, why Penix not getting reps in the ones? That's not competition. So it's definitely going to be um, what you say. Mike Vick is the best ever, and the favorite son. Favorite don't mean nothing. Mike Vick had 2 winning seasons when he was here, right? Like Mike Vick was electric. He was awesome, but he only had 2 winning seasons. So, like I said, Mike Vick was the most electric player. You can say he one of the most electric players to play football in the NFL history. But as far as Atlanta Falcons, he was not successful. He had 2 winning seasons. So, uh-uh. No, that's not Mike Vick. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break people's feelings about that. Oh, okay. Um, Eddie says, it's not about stats, young fella. I ain't talking about stats. I'm talking about wins and losses. When you playing sports, it's always about wins and losses. I ain't talking about stats. I'm talking about wins and losses. And he had 2 winning seasons in 6 years. That's a fact. That's a fact, right? Right. When you talk about wins and losses, the fact is he only had 2 winning seasons. That's a fact. So, so, and until Matt Ryan got to this team, the Atlanta Falcons had never had a back-to-back winning season. That included with Michael Vick. So those are facts, right? People lie. Numbers don't lie. Those are facts. That's just the bottom line. Michael Vick was the truth. But to be honest with you, he didn't take it serious enough. Didn't really learn how to read defenses. Played a lot of schoolyard basketball and stuff like that. So I'm not getting to the whole Michael Vick conversation here because I love Michael Vick. Wins are counted as stats. Okay, that's still a fact. Study your Hall of Fame rule book. You want to argue me because I'm right. When people argue, when I make my point and they keep talking about it because they know the next person right, they trying to continue to win the argument by keep adding more stuff to it. I'm done talking about it. All right. Next point that I want to talk about is leadership, right? And this is one of those intangible things I know, right? So we talk about leadership, we talk about intangible things, right? And so this is one of those intangible things. However, I do believe it plays a role to being the quarterback for a team, right? They usually quarterbacks looked at as a leader. Not all the time, but most of the time, the quarterback you usually have the C on his chest. He's the captain of the team. He's going to be the leader. Tua Tagovailoa has had some issues with that, especially the last couple seasons, right? Some of his comments he made, like he's throwing his teammates on the bus, you know. So being able to, galvanize your locker room and being the leader of your locker room and players want to be led by you, it's important. It really is, right? Um, so definitely Tua Tagovailoa has the opportunity to come into a new, organization and take that by the horns, right? Even Michael Penix, right? A lot of people is going to be on his side because they know him, they believe him. So a lot of players are already going to be rooting for Michael Penix because he already established himself as the leader of this locker room by what he did last offseason, becoming the starter and playing for 9 games. So Michael Penix has the upper hand, I think, on that about being a leader for this organization right now because that offense, most of all those guys are coming back, and they all already seen what kind of leader Michael Penix can be. How he put his body on the line, how he put it all out there to try to make wins with his team last year. So leadership is important, right? It's an intangible thing, something that you can't see, right? But you can tell by the way the players, play for guys and stuff like that. A lot of good teams, when you think about, it's led by the players, right? Coaches coach, But when you have really good solid teams, you have really good leaders within the locker room, right? It's important to have really good leaders. You go to some of those really good football teams. Um, you go to the Ravens. You look at guys like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and even Shannon Sharp when they won their Super Bowl back in 2000, right? You go back to the New York Giants. They had Michael Strahan. They had they had some really good leaders. Of course, the Patriots with Tom Brady. You know, always was a leader. Peyton Manning, right? But even not just Peyton Manning, you look at other guys on the team. You look at the center, Jeff Saturday was or somebody that everybody you looked at and leaned on as a leader as well. So it's a lot of examples out there when you see guys, guy like Von Miller up in Denver when he was there, right? There's so many guys you think about when you talk about leadership, right? Led teams are good, right? So when we think about quarterback competition, um, always go back to this. This is something intangible. You really can't see it on the field and stuff like that, but you can feel it from your team and how they're what they want you to do, right? Play always, do that, right? Because if you move the ball and make plays, right? But I think when Michael Penix Jr. has built equity up in this locker room with the players because he was there, especially on the offense side of the ball. All those guys are coming back. So I definitely think he has built equity up, and they definitely look at him as, the leader right now, right? So Tua is going to have a lot of catching up to do in that aspect from that standpoint. So if you want to talk about competition from that standpoint, I give Michael Penix Jr. upper hand, even though he won't be out to start the offseason program, OTAs and things like that, which would help too, ingratiate himself with other players and stuff. So it's going to be huge, but I think leadership is really huge for the quarterback competition, and we're going to see what takes place and how it transpires here. You know, being moving forward, right? So definitely, guys. Let me see what you guys have to say. T. Terry says, Recondo, you see two highlights. He's very accurate. Tyreek wasn't wrong. Yes, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks. I think 68.9%, which is really good. Um, when you look at those highlights, man, I tell you, man, I ain't gonna lie. I feel like Atlanta Falcons should take a chance on Tyreek Hill. I really do. But he's from Coffee County. He's a Georgia boy, right? They should take a chance on him, man. But I just had this whole spiel about locker room and stuff like that, and having leaders. I don't know if Tyreek Hill is somebody that Atlanta Falcons would want their locker room, but because his personality, his off the field issues he have, but right, oh man, that guy is ridiculous, and and he really helped Tua out a lot. you know, being one of the best offenses, a couple of years ago. So, yeah, man, yeah. Talk about Tyreek Hill. You say stopping through. What's going on, Miss Maggie? How you doing? How you doing? Y'all shout out Miss Maggie. Go look at her show, man. All those guys over there that I actually came into the podcast world with those guys, man. So definitely Atlanta Falcons fans. These are diehard Atlanta Falcons fans. They're the reason why I started doing the podcast, right? It was COVID. I was sitting around looking, and I caught these guys on, and man, they have Friday Night Madness. I know they remember that, and man, I was there, so they got me started, right? So shout out to all those guys over there, K Styles, Matt Mike, all those guys, man. Jew Talks, all those everybody that I started with, and shout out to Miss Maggie T, man. So, yep. Yep. So guys, but when we talk about the leadership, that's what I'm talking about when we talk about the quarterback competition. Let's get into my next topic. Let's see here. I think one of the most important things is definitely messaging from an organization, It's important, man. And like I said, I'm this is this is fresh in our mind because the messaging we got from Kevin Stefanski last year about quarterback competition and stuff like that, instead of just coming out and saying what you really want to happen, it was vague, right? And I think if he would have just been clear and concise what he wanted to do with the quarterback position, they wouldn't have had all that turmoil that they had in Cleveland last year, right? But it wasn't concise. It was all over the place. I think if you hear from the owner, you hear one thing. It seems like the general manager had another mindset, the coaching. So it sounds like those guys was not on the same page at all, right? And the messaging was terrible. It really was terrible, right? So we hear our general manager come out and say it's a quarterback competition. What you what you want to hear from Kevin Stefanski is the same, right? You want to make sure that the messaging is the same. They have the same alignment. They have the same vision because now when you see that, you don't have to worry about you know stuff being convoluted and stuff. You hear what you heard, right? And that's what you expect when you see those guys play. So if you hear quarterback competition, you expect that what it is, right? But if you say it's really not a quarterback competition, right now we're gonna put Michael Penix Jr. on IR for 4 months, right? I mean, yeah, for the first 4 games. Now we understand that Tua's gonna be the starting quarterback, and Michael Penix, they're gonna make sure he get healthy, and they're gonna take that. In my opinion, that's how they should be doing it. If they do it that way, it makes more sense, right? But if you're gonna make it a real quarterback competition, because right now a lot of people thinking that Tua got the job, right? That's what a lot of people thinking that he has the job, no matter what, and you know all bets are off. So that's not a good thing if people thinking that right now at this point it's really not a quarterback competition because most people thinking that Tua Tagovailoa is just gonna come in and he got the job because of his experience, right, and all that stuff. And if that's the case, I mean, why even say you got a quarterback competition? So that's one of the things you got to say. Um, Tyreek wouldn't come because of him and Tua hateful history. Okay, even though when Tua got signed, um, he did put a shout out and said Tua was coming home. He liked that, so he liked the tweet and said that Tua. So if they got hateful history, um, he liked the idea of Tua coming to his hometown. So um, that's cool. As Megan said, so glad to see everyone inspired to create content. Content, yes, man. It's a lot of us too. And when we think about the Falcon content creators, right? It wasn't a lot of us. It's a lot of us now. I love it. I really do. Right. And we can even make it grow even more. Right. Look at all these other fan bases that come out and create content. But Atlanta Falcons got some loyal fans out there. They do. Right. I know it don't seem like it, right? And because I can tell you this much, and I have said this on a lot of podcasts. You talk about loyal fans. Atlanta Falcons have to have loyal fans because we ain't won shit. So if you're an Atlanta Falcon fan, you ride or die. Because what do we have to brag about, right? I walk around with my Atlanta Falcon gear on, and people always got some shit to say, but I don't care, right? Because I like, yeah, but that's my team. No rhyme with them, right? So you got to really be a Falcon fan. So that's that's one of the things I love about it. Um, and it says you're not going to hear that noise in public. They will say the right professional things like they supposed to until otherwise. However, inside the building, already knows they're betting on. Yes, I agree. But the problem is that's not what happened in Cleveland last year. That's what I'm saying. It was different messaging in Cleveland. You heard the owner say, if you would have told me he was going to be here, I would have been shocked, right? So he didn't have an idea that he was going to draft the kid. And then you hear Kevin Stefanski saying it's a quarterback competition, but kid never got any reps at all with the ones or the twos, right? But it was a quarterback competition. And then the third round pick got all the reps. So Like you can't say one thing but then do something else on the field. That's what I'm saying. So your messaging from the organization need to match what you're showing, right? Because if you say one thing, you want to make sure that it matches what's transpiring on the field. Just be real, man. Like I think players and fans just like the truth. Just be honest. Why hide it? Why hide? It's going to show it. It's going to happen anyway. So why not just be honest about what the real situation is instead of telling us one thing then showing a whole other thing on the field? It's like why do that? All right, the players need to know what's going on. So you, it's not saying the right thing. It's just being honest about the situation. Right now, Michael Tua Tagovailoa is outperforming Michael Penix. Why not say that? Is that the truth? Why keep it in house? Right? At least, because that's what we see on the field. He get more reps with the ones, right? Right. And so you're not saying it, but you're showing it anyway. So just say it. That's all I'm saying. Just be honest about what's going on. If you do that, I think everybody won't have that much to say because damn, he came out and he was honest about the whole thing, right? That's what it really boils down to. Um, Another thing, guys, that's gonna play a factor in this quarterback competition, and and I really like this one is talent. Talent is gonna play a role, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and put the talent coming up when I talk about. Let's go to James Pierce Jr. Right, because when you got talent, you get away with a little bit more stuff, and they give you a chance to prove yourself or something like that. So James Pierce Jr. a perfect example. Because this young man is so talented, the Atlanta Falcons are willing to let's see can we get this thing straight, right? Because he's so talented, and we do not want to just let him go out the door, right? So because think about it, James Pierce Jr. had 2 sacks last year. He probably been going all right, but you have 10.5 sacks, and you know showed all that potential. The last person to have 10 sacks as a rookie was Michael Parsons. So this guy's got talent. So they're gonna tolerate a little bit more, right? To get away with a little bit more, right? They're gonna give you more chances to prove yourself because of your talent, right? And when it comes to talent, Michael Penix Jr. has talent. He does, man. It's that's that simple. His arm talent is unquestionable. It is what it is. He has one of the biggest arms in this league, and he can throw on all parts of the field. Right, he can stretch the ball down the field. Right, um, he's not too shabby as being accurate in himself and things like that. So right, so that talent that he has, right, when we just talked about the alignment from the front office, right? So when they're looking, saying, "Man, he's so talented," we we want to give him the opportunity to prove that he can be it because the talent is off the chain. You look at the film, right? You be like, "Man, you saw that throw? Did you see that throw? The throws you're going to see in practice, you're like, dang, you saw that, right?" And when you start seeing all that arm talent and stuff like that, um, it's going to play a factor in to you know what people want to see, what organizations want to see, right? Because sometimes, right, that talent outweighs stuff. We look at Caleb Williams, not last year, the year before last, right? When he didn't play well at all. He just didn't. He didn't play well, right? But come in Ben Johnson, and the talent outshined, right? And you start to see the flashes from what Caleb Williams able to do. I know everybody saw that throw in the playoffs, right? The guy falling away, straight up dying, right? Because he got an arm talent. That's what he has, right? And when you're gonna be able to let these guys get away with certain things because of the time. You look at Josh Allen, how he was when he first came out, right? Right. Go look at his first couple of years. It wasn't that pretty, right? Matter of fact, You know, I think K Adams actually put up um, Michael Penix first 14 starts compared to Josh Allen first 14 starts, right? And they wasn't that dissimilar, right? They was kind of similar to each other, the way they looked, right? And the Buffalo Bills did not give up on Josh Allen and then throw him to the wolves because they saw his his God given talent. Now Michael Penix is not like Josh Allen because Michael Penix has a long injury history, and that's definitely take a factor in you know what they think about him as a long term franchise quarterback. But when you look at the talent from Michael Penix, I think it's going to play a factor in this, right? Tua has the upper hand because he's a veteran. He's proven. He's a winner, right? He's accurate. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in today's game. That's hands down, right? Um, he has he throws into his pace. He throws into with the system, right? Those are the things that he has for him. And the biggest thing he has is that he's healthy, right? That's going to play a major factor in this whole thing. So when you think about the talent that Michael Penix has, I think that's going to help him, right? Got to get healthy and get on the field, but trust me, I've been to a lot of training camps. When I look at those training camps, um, and I say, man, I seen that throw. I said, did everybody go? Did you see that throw? Right? And then you start thinking like, dang, right? And then when they show the videos, and then you see the coaches and the players be like, did y'all see that throw? Right? Those are things that jump off the tape when you think about Michael Penix Jr. That's why I think he should get opportunity, right? If he's healthy, right, you can't just get the reins over to Tua Tagovailoa because Michael Penix Jr. going to be able to do some things Tua Tagovailoa can't because I believe his ceiling is higher. That's my opinion, right? We'll never know, but that's my opinion. Um, let's see. Eddie says, let's just say the building is super, super excited with Tua on board. They're confident, just saying they should be. They should be. He's a talented quarterback. He's a talented quarterback. Like, two things can be true, right? That they excited to have Tua on the team, but when you say it's a quarterback competition, right? Like I said, if it's not a quarterback competition, just say it's not, right? That's all I'm saying. Like, why say it's a quarterback competition and then don't really have a quarterback competition? That's all I'm saying. Like, don't make sense. Don't say one thing and then do something else. Just be truthful to the whole situation. I disagree, but the man was recently first round and he didn't kill nobody. Who you talking about? Are you talking about James Pierce Jr.? Like I said, if James Pierce Jr. had 2 sacks, it'd be a whole different story. It'd be a whole different story. If he didn't show the potential he showed, he won't be this team. I go back to I can't think of the one young the one young linebacker that we had here in this team that we got rid of right away when he did some crap with his girlfriend. So um, it's huge different in coaching, development, and style beyond the basis. Ben Johnson is another quarterback developer like Stefanski, um, KK Kyle. I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about Kyle Shanahan, I guess. And the list goes on for those coaches in that category. No, you're talking about guys from Clint Kubiak. I guess you're talking about Kyle Shanahan. I'm tracking. I'm tracking what you're saying. You're talking about quarterback development. Right, so hopefully Stefanski can develop Penix and see what he can do. Right. You said Recondo. I have never coached Kirby walk around with no team like he did with Matt Ryan and Stefanski today at the pro day. Hey man, that's the hometown team, man. The hometown team. And he lobbying for his guys, man, too, right? And I mentioned some of those guys. I mentioned Miller, I mentioned Everett, I mentioned Delp, I mentioned Zachariah Branch, right? Those guys, man. One of those guys gonna be available on day 2, day 3, man. One of those guys should be available, right? And we all love our dogs, man. We do. So um, we'll see what the Atlanta Falcons want to do when we talk about those guys. All right, all right, all right. I got one more thing that I want to talk about when we talk about this quarterback competition, and um, that is the the quarterback room, right? And a lot of people thinking that when you do quarterback competition like this, it has to be a whole bunch of animosity towards each other. They hate each other and things like that. But I think the quarterback room, a healthy quarterback room, will be important for both of those guys, right? Um, because at the end of the day, your team, the only sucky thing about a quarterback competition is that it only one can play, right? It's not like all the other positions, right? All the other positions, yeah, one guy starts, but you rotate guys in and out. Not all guys, right? Cornerback, maybe not so much, right? But for most part, most of the other positions, offensive line, maybe not so much, but for most of the other positions, right, only one guy is going to play, right? So, but I think a healthy quarterback room is going to be huge, not just for Michael Penix, but it's going to be huge for Tua Tagovailoa too, right? Those guys push each other, right, and root for each other teammate, because one of the biggest things that I know for a fact is that you know considering both of these guys' injury history, whoever does get the nod maybe get an opportunity to get in there. So you have to stay ready, right? That's I think that's one of the most important things is staying ready, being ready for your opportunity when it comes, right? That's why I think when you do have this quarterback competition, it's really good to make sure that both guys get reps with their first team, so they have rep with the center, the offensive line, and all that good stuff like that. So it's really gonna be huge. Um, to see this unfolds. And only unfortunate thing about it is Michael Penix Jr. timeline, right? If he can get back out on the field sooner rather than later, that would benefit him a whole lot because he'll have opportunity to not be behind, learning a new offense, being able to develop chemistry with your teammates, unlike Tua, right? Who's going to be ready from day one, OTAs, going out there, building that camaraderie with his teammates, something that honestly Michael Penix kind of already have because he have that some of that because he was here last year, right? And he was the starting guy. So Tua has don't have the upper hand on that, but being able to get out there and getting with this new coaching staff and looking really, really good, which he's gonna look good, man. That's the saddest part about it because when Eddie's saying that they really excited about Tua, the truth is he's gonna look good. I mean, he can play, right? He's not a scrub, man. 44-32 as a starter. He's not a scrub. Dude got 129 touchdowns and to 59 interceptions. Right? That touchdown to interception ratio is really, really good. He's not a scrub. So, you know, people saying that this was bad signing stuff like you only saying that because 2 years ago the dude was laying on the ground like he was about to have a seizure, right? That's pretty much what it really boils down to. But his quarterback play on the field, you know, last year was not a good audition for him. I would say that to say the risk because it was not good. But for the most part of his career, he's been solid, man. He really has. So that's not gonna bode well for Michael Penix because the kid's gonna come out and he's gonna play well. And that's just a fact. He definitely believe he's gonna play well. He's gonna get the ball to his players because he is accurate. He does throw a good football, right? Tyreek was not lying about that. So that's one of the things is gonna. That's why Michael. The only biggest thing we can say about Michael Penix, don't rush too fast and get yourself hurt again. So that would be bad. That would be really really bad. So T. Terry says, Ricardo have never. Okay, well we've seen that one before. We've seen that one already. Imagine if Henderson and Max Crosby got paired together. It almost happened. It almost happened. But Buffalo bowed out. I mean, Baltimore. I said Buffalo. Baltimore bowed out. It almost happened though. Tua has even better offensive line in Atlanta. Enough said, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid to get hurt from non-contact. Yeah, he's gonna look good, man. It does not bode well for Michael Penix being injured, man. I'm just being honest about the whole situation. A lot of people thinking that he's gonna start the year on the IR anyway. So if that's the case, that kind of takes out the quarterback competition. And that's what I mean about messaging, man. Because if they know this kid's not gonna be ready before, the first game of the season, I know you don't have to put out injury reports, this soon and this early. So, I mean, you don't have to say all that right now, right? But I think it's important to really be honest about it. And the truth is, also, they're going to bring in another quarterback as well. They have to, right? Um, because you have to have when you're trying to see what you got in your other talent, right? You got to be able to throw the ball, right? You got to be able to. And Tua's not going to throw the ball that many times, to backups and stuff like that. So they're going to bring in another quarterback. So be on the lookout for that. We don't know when it's going to happen. They're going to do it free agency, or they might even go in their draft, right? We don't know. So definitely be on the lookout for another quarterback here as well. So it's the nature of the beast, right? The whole thing about Tua coming in is that the Atlanta Falcons had to get a quarterback regardless, right? The fact that they got him for $1.3 million and he's a pretty good solid quarterback in this league. Man, you can't beat that. So that's huge for the Atlanta Falcons. Um, Nathan Floyd said it feels like Tua, it's his job to lose and Mike Penny Jr. job to win and hold it down. Yes, that's perfectly put, Nathan. That's perfectly put. I agree with you. It feels like it's Tua's job to lose and Michael Penny's job to try to say, come here. It ain't gonna happen because Michael Penny Jr. is a younger player. He's almost old as Tua, 2 years apart. I think if the Falcons drafted Branch or Bell, Branch and Tyreek, is Bell is that Julio Jones. I don't see the comparisons. Don't see the comparison with Julio. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But Branch, and I don't see the comparison with Branch and Tyreek either, man. Tyreek is he's another low fast man. That dude is ridiculous. He's explosive as hell. Um, so we'll definitely look at that. But they're going to put excuse me. They're going to put more players around these guys as well. They're definitely going to put playmakers around. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Eddie says, if you go back to Matty Ice comment from the beginning, he stated that they will take Mike Prince Jr. way back to the basics with the hopes of developing him properly. That statement has never been mentioned. Matt Ryan has never said that out publicly. If he said it behind the scenes, I don't know, but publicly he has never said that. So we don't know what their plans with Michael Penix Jr. If that's their plan, they should come out and say that. But they have not said that publicly, though. I can say that as much. Um, you have to adhere to certain comments or statements from those folks. You know, some coaches come out and say what they mean, right? Some coaches come out and say what they mean. You don't have to be PC when it comes to these situations, right? You got to mean what you say, man. And like I said, like I don't know why a coach would say one thing to the media but then do something else on the field. I don't. That's just I don't like that personally. So um, they have the do they can do whatever they want to damn do. But I'm just saying, um, just just be honest, man. Shit, what's gonna hurt, right? You telling the players if you're a really good coach, you're gonna tell the players what's going on into their face, right? So why not tell the media what you told the players, right? So it's not mixed messaging because like we see one thing, but then you're saying something else. Why? Why do it that way? I just don't get it, right? Tanner staying we staying in the 4-3 defense this season. Oh, you asking me we're gonna stay in the 4-3 defense? Great question. I don't know. I think it's gonna be multiple, man. I really do. Right? If you look at the bodies they brought in for agency, um, they replaced Armor Katie, they replaced Leonard Floyd in the bodies they brought in with Aziz and Abulkun, those guys they brought in. Of course, Braylon Trice coming back. Then they got Jalen Walker and James Pierce, right? So you got all those guys, like five guys they got on the edge, right? And for the most part, and I forgot about Cameron Thomas as well. So there's six guys they got on the edge, right? When you look at that, Cameron Thomas is maybe the only one that sets a really, really good edge, right, from his size. Those other guys are they're slight, they're fast, they move. So I think it's going to be another defense similar to last year. I do believe Jeff Albrecht, go back to some of his what he knows best, right? Because that defense was top five that he did have in New York. So it wasn't like it was bad. So you can see that, but when you look at the personnel they got, right, especially look at the linebackers that they brought in, all those guys, the linebackers they brought in, all run 4-4, right? Go to Troy Anderson, Divine Diablo, um, Christian Harris, right? All those guys are fast as hell. So um, I think it's gonna be a multiple defense, um, and that's okay. That's okay, right? I still think the main thing that they need to do is dress the defensive front. They brought in some rotational guys and Deshaun Hand and you know Chris Williams, right? They did bring in that. They brought back Lakel London, but then those guys to go with Brandon Dorless, who had 8.5 sacks last year. We forget about that with Brandon Dorless. Um, Zach Harrison, before he got injured last year, before he went IR, had 4.5 sacks. He was actually leading the team in sacks before he went down. So those two guys, you know, bigger ends, right? That can play that 4-3 that you was talking about. But then you can kick those guys inside when you want to, put that NASCAR package on there. I like to call it NASCAR package, right? Because you put a whole bunch of pass rushers on the field, and then all those guys pin their ears back to try to go get somebody, right? And those third and long packages and stuff like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they deploy this defense this year. But it's hard to say when the pieces, the puzzle's not finished yet, right? Pieces to the puzzle is not here yet. So once we get past the draft and they do the undrafted free agents, and then we get to that huge 90-man roster, you kind of get an idea of what the Atlanta Falcons want to try to build this year, with their defense. But great question though. Um, I'm trying to post the link of Matty Ice statement to this podcast, but will send it to full proof. Yes, please post that. I haven't heard it. Like I said, I don't know what he said it at, but I didn't hear him say that. So Jeff Albrecht's scheme is a 4-3, 4-2-5, 3-4 mix. Yeah, the scheme they had last year was a mixture of what Jeff Albrecht had and what Raheem Morris brought. So it's that Robert Sala, you know, mixed with Big Fangio kind of defense. Raheem Morris put his spin on it, right? And then you have what Robert Sala had been doing for years, what he'd been doing in San Francisco and New York. You kind of mix all those together, right? And then but you got to think Jeff Albrecht was influenced by Dan Quinn, right? With that Legion of Boom type defense. You look at the linebackers that he brought in, right? He does like fast linebackers that go side to side. That's some Dan Quinn influence in my opinion, right? So those are some things as well that you can look at. Uh, got some spam coming up in here. He likes to have his 4 down linemen and a wide set. Yeah, he loved playing that wide 9. He did that a lot in New York. You're correct. It was a little bit less this year, like I said, but it was all based on personnel. But being able to be multiple, I think will benefit what we can do with this defense. The one thing we don't want to do is take a step back, man. This team had all those sacks, broke the franchise record. We don't want to take a step back. We want to move forward, right? And when you think about that, that's why Jeff Albrecht was brought back, because it's year 2 in this defense, and you want to be able to build on it, not take steps back. So let's hope that that's what he can actually do. T. Terry says Kirby said the Falcons has invited the Georgia Bulldogs to come to practice to their facility. Kirby said has been knowing Matt Ryan for a long time, and Kevin Stefanski too. One thing about Matty Ice, which I think is going to really, really benefit what we going to see from this franchise this year, is that he wanted to bring back some of the older Falcons, right? The ones that know what it means to be Falcons, right? I think that's going to be huge, right? I love to see Julio. I love to see Julio back in the building, man. I know they got to get over whatever his angst with the team because of how his trade turned out and stuff like that. But Roddy coming back, right? We saw Matt Ryan at the Georgia Tech pro day with Muhammad Sanu. All those guys that you see, bring back Mud Duck, bring back him, right? Um, Bring back some older Falcons. John Abraham. John Abraham's been around the team. Michael Vick has been around the team, right? Those guys has already had their presence. We've seen those guys, but some of those older guys that come in that could, like I said, know what it means to be in a Falcon, man, and because that just bring that legacy of the Atlanta Falcons back too, and knows what these guys playing for, right? So that's what I'm talking about. He said he actually stated emphasizing a focus on fundamentals while developing, right? Like I said, I mean, you can show me that statement. I just don't remember him saying it nowhere. You can't say Vic Fangio because his defense requires super big, huge guys in the interior or D line. Period. Historically, yeah, it has Vic Fangio elements to it. That's why I said a mix. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to what I'm not saying. It's a mix. Vic Fangio it has some Vic Fangio elements to it. The way they play coverage and stuff like that. Not completely the same. Not saying that. Dermar says, how good was Matt Ryan as a CBS sport analyst? Would you say? I thought he was awesome. And what was interesting is his takes about quarterbacking was really, really good, right? And kind of pulled back the curtain about how he looked at the game when he was a quarterback, right? He talked about young quarterbacks. I think one of the most fascinating things that I heard Matt Ryan said is being able to play up on the center. right? One of his big takeaways. I mean, he wasn't talking about, the Atlanta Falcons quarterback situation that much, and could have been. He right could have asked about, I don't know the question what was asked, but one thing he said was playing on the center helps quarterback, develop and get their timing down. Right. That's one of the things he said. Because think about it, especially when you're doing play action pass, right? Even when you play in the center, when you play in the center, you think about it, you got a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drop, right? And usually when you get to your drop, it's time for the ball to come out, right? So that creates that timing, that creates that clock in your head, right? That's why a lot of these quarterbacks today, because a lot of these quarterbacks in college, they playing shotgun a lot. They're not used to that. So it's going to be important to see Tua as well. Tua playing up on the center because he didn't play on the center a lot neither. Michael Penix didn't play up on the center, even though he said that it wasn't because he didn't want to play the center, what the coaches tell him to do. So we'll definitely get to see, because Kevin Stefanski loves his guys up on the center, right? And like I said, it creates the timing, especially when you start to run play action, because what you want to do is make your runs and your pass look the same, right? You want to marry the run with the pass. And if you're able to do that, you can get to the defense and make them, you can kind of dictate what they do, right? Because now they got to be thinking, is Bijan Robinson getting this ball, or is they pulling the ball, and keeping it on a bootleg or something like that, right? And it make linebackers hesitate just a slight second. And trust me, if Bijan, they think Bijan getting raw, they coming down. That's what they're doing. Um, Big runs a 5-1 flex, nickel, disguise, defense, system. Just saying, yep. And we saw some of that last year with the Atlanta Falcons. Go back and look at the Tampa Bay game where D. Alford picked off Baker Mayfield in the flat. It was just what you just described, perfectly disguised. He also made another interception in New Orleans the last game of the season, so it was disguised twice. The coverage how it was laid out. So it's elements of it out there. Trust me, it definitely was, right. And that's what I'm saying. Um, Christian, 52 Georgia, yeah. Christian Miller, yeah, man. I don't know if he's going to be there in the second round for the Falcons. Just be honest with you, don't know if he's going to be there. What's going on? Let's go Falcons. ATL Dirty Bird, rise up, man. Let's see. Says, was Mooney a good run? Hell no. Hell no. He was terrible. Go back and look at that Commanders game 2 years ago when he got ran over. He was trying to get in the end zone. He was not a good blocker. Right? I mean, but his stature wasn't built that way anyway, so they shouldn't expect him to be a good blocker. Right. But he was outstanding in 2024, man. He really was. He was outstanding. He played really, really well in 2024. He almost had 1,000 yards. Um, Even when Michael Penix took over, he made big plays for the Atlanta Falcons. Just could not get healthy this year, and so that's just the nature of the beast. Boom, guys! I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Like I promised, I was going to have the quarterback competition. You know, talk and conversation about my feelings on it. Um, but in the end, it's going to be interesting how I play. See, when I think about what I want to see, I would honestly, guys, I would love for Michael Penix to show what he can do with his organization. However, I'm curious to see how well Tua Tagovailoa play in his offense as well. Just being honest, I'm not gonna lie. Uh, so I'm like split, right? Because I want to see Michael Penix thrive and be this franchise quarterback, but man, I just want to see how good Tua can be with an offensive line, good running game. I'm just curious, man. I really want to see how how it can be. T. Terry says, and I'm glad you said this because I'm about to about to close it off with this. I'm asking what the defensive systems are called. I need to know the type, sir. It's mixed, man. It's a mixed defense. You're trying to you can't put the new defenses in a box. Stop trying to do that, right? Right. Jeff Albrecht said he mixed a little bit of his defense with a little bit of Raheem defense. I don't know what they call it, right? Because it was a mixture. It was the Atlanta Falcons defense. That's what it was, right? So you're trying to put it in a box and then like this is a 5-2, 5-3. It was a mix of what they did good together. And you mix it up. And that's why when they first started the season, they had like the number one ranked defense because teams didn't know what the hell they was running because they had never seen it before, right? Then they picked up, they started picking up on it towards the end of the season, in the middle of the season, right? And they kind of got it back towards the end. But in the middle of the season, teams started to kind of gas them a little bit because they kind of figured out what they was doing. But at the start of the season, they did not know, right? Because it was a mixture of what they was doing in New York and what Raheem was doing at the Rams, right? So it's not, it's, I don't know. Don't know. I just see the influences from all the guys that that these guys had coached with. Said great show, bro. Get back on the house. Hell no. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm leaving on this. No, I will never be a Hawks fan again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a Hawks fan. Won't be. They traded Dominique Wilkins. Then they traded Trey Young. Like that's that's dumb. You traded two of your best franchise players, right? I get it. Jalen Johnson is a stud, man. Right? I like what Kaminga doing. I like what Alexander Walker doing. I can ride with it, man. I don't know what they were doing, Ricochet. I don't know what they were doing with him, but I'm not. No, I'm sorry, guys. Never gonna be a Hawk fan. It's the only team I don't rock with in Georgia. The only team. So I'm sorry, man. Can't do it. Can't do it. Will Matt Ryan go into the Hall of Fame? He should. I'm gonna just say it like this: if Eli Manning get in the Hall of Fame, Matt Ryan should get in the Hall of Fame. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. I love Trey. Exactly. They traded him, man. Trade. How you trade Neek and Trey Young? No, I don't want to be a Hawk fan, man. I'm sorry. Get the Hawks. Even though congratulations for having that 10-game winning streak. Matter of fact, they on now, right? Let's see what the score is. I follow the Hawks because they're hometown team. So what's the score? Getting up out of here. It's 2-0. And they should beat the Mavericks, so they should be on the 11-game winning streak. So good job for the Hawks, man. But no, I'm not a Hawks fan. Hate to say it, guys. Romo going in. Man, please. Man, you just want to get me mad. All right. You just want to get me mad. Guys, this is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.